Donald Trump accepting $400 million gifts in the form of a 747 jet from Qatar. Donald Trump brags about it and says that this is a great thing for America. In my opinion, it is a unlawful thing that should be talked about in the proper context. We will do that here on the MeidasTouch Network. Also, Donald Trump fully caves and capitulates to China in front of the world. Donald Trump is trying to parade out what took place in Switzerland as a deal, but it really was a consensus for the total retreat or almost total retreat and withdrawal by the United States in their trade war against China. In the two quote unquote deals that we've seen so far, one with the United Kingdom where Donald Trump essentially giving special carve-outs to Rolls-Royce and Land Rover while taxing the United States and actually not doing a deal. And this China capitulation, I think that Donald Trump may not be a good deal maker and not know what he's doing, but we'll talk about that here as well. Donald Trump needed a new distraction after accepting a $400 million gift from Qatar and caving to China. So Donald Trump rolled out via executive order what he claims to be a new health care plan. But with all things Donald Trump, it is a scam. It's just him posting all caps and not caps and then run-on sentences that he's signing an executive order that he says is going to lower prices 30%, 50%, 80%, who knows, even 90% on prescription drug prices and healthcare costs via an unlawful executive order, while the MAGA Republicans are the ones who have been blocking the reductions to prescription drug prices and the ability of the government to negotiate in the private healthcare market, the same way former President Biden fought to have the government negotiate across Medicare. So we should talk about what Trump is really doing here, which is actually going to lead to healthcare costs rising. But for Donald Trump, it's just another scam. I'm going to bring your healthcare costs down 80%. I'm going to do such a good work with tariffs that you're not even going to need to have taxes anymore. Everyone's just going to be so rich. It's why we call this the Ponzi scheme presidency, the rug pull presidency. Look no further than Donald Trump's own company, because what may have been missed with all of these whack-a-mole stories that are taking place, Trump media reported to the Securities and Exchange Commissions that it has material weaknesses in its own accounting procedures, such that the reliability of its own accounting submitted publicly may not be relied upon potentially because of its conduct. Also, I think for the first quarter, Trump media, which runs Truth Social, lost like $32 million, something in that range, and then only made $800,000 in actual revenue, brought in $800,000 in revenue for the first quarter. I just want you to think about that. Your local deli probably does about the same revenue as Trump's company, and it certainly ain't losing $29 million. And then we should talk about all these MAGA Republicans from this weekend trying to, justify the fact that Donald Trump wants to get rid of Habeas Corpus and destroy the Constitution. And they're saying, oh, this is so brilliant. And the MAGA Republicans parroting Donald Trump's lines that tariffs are going to be so great, but now they have to reverse that and say tariffs are actually really bad, and you should have one doll and you should only have one pencil, little girls, while Donald Trump gets $400 million gifts from Qatar. We're going to break it all down. I think the American people understand what's up. I'm reporting from New York with my brother Brett and with Jordy. There he is. We're here for the Webbies this evening. I want to give everybody a heads up in case some major news breaks while we're at the event that we have to pre-record this because we're going to be at the Webby event during the time of our normal recording. So we're trying to capture everything that's occurred today up until this point. And I think it'll be a very, very, very comprehensive show, but I wanted to flag that. Brett, Jordy, how you doing?
We're doing great. It's great to be here with everybody. It's great to be with you brothers here in person in New York City for the Webby Awards. I want to apologize up front in case the quality isn't quite 100% this episode. We are at the whims of the hotel Wi-Fi. Jordy is sharing a space with me right here. Ben is a couple floors up, so we are doing our best, folks. But we got a lot of information to bring to you. We are so excited to speak with you about all the latest updates. We're so excited for the Webby Awards tonight. It should be a super cool. And I just want to once again thank everybody for this, because this obviously could not happen without any of you. And so for those who don't know, we have been awarded Webby Podcast of the Year, like of all podcasts. I still kind of think it's a prank until we go on stage and accept this thing. I still kind of think it's a big joke that people are pulling on me, but this has been very cool. And you guys should be able to watch, actually, if you're watching this live. I think you could probably watch that live right after. I believe it's watch.webbyawards.com. You could check out the Webbies tonight if you're watching this live with us, or you could watch the clips if you're listening to this on audio. If you're not listening on audio, by the way, make sure you check it out on the MeidasTouch Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We've had a busy few days here. This morning, we also did Katie Couric's podcast this morning. That's going to be released this Thursday, so make sure you look up her show and look forward to our interview on her show. We had a really nice time in studio, the first in-studio interview that we've ever done as brothers, as crazy as that is in the 5 years of MeidasTouch. So check that out. Big moment Thursday, Katie Couric's podcast. Make sure you check it out. Jordy, what's the latest with you?
Super excited. Hey, everybody. Going to be a great episode tonight. Katie with the exclusive. The three brothers in studio the very first time. This is very cool. You say in the 5 years, we've never all actually done an interview together. I don't know what would have led us to doing an interview with someone prior to.
I was thinking of the context of a reason why we'd have
to. No, it makes sense. Can't wait for tonight's show. Where do you want to start off, Benji?
Let's talk about Qatar, because it's probably the least thing that Donald Trump wants to talk about. So let me put that first, because when we talk about what went down in China, it's not a deal, okay? And there's a reason that China isn't calling it a deal. It's a statement. It's a consensus where the U.S. is retreating and is withdrawing 145% tariffs. And when you add up all the ridiculous things that are still there, the U.S. is going to be imposing a tariff on 30%, which is basically a tax on our own people. And China's like, okay, we'll only tax our own people 10%. So we'll reduce ours to 10%. Okay, there, Donald. That's the great art of the deal right there. And then other than that, as the consensus, there's then discussions to discuss further. There's not a trade deal. It's not some sort of comprehensive document. It's literally Trump, after saying that he's going to make everybody so rich that you're not going to need to pay income taxes, just basically taking them off the table, and then or removing the tariffs, and then basically showing yet once again he will always back down to pressure, and you can't take anything he says seriously at all, and that he has no plan, and it's just him and market manipulation and just being arbitrary.
When I watch this, I don't know if you feel the same way. Part of me feels like I'm going insane the way some of the media reports on this. Just the way they're like, "We have a deal, folks." I'm like, "What deal? What deal do we have?" He lit the fire, and now we put out some of the fire, and you're calling that a deal? I truthfully don't understand this concept where you reward the arsonist with praise when he just kind of puts out some of the fire and doesn't actually get anything in return. I mean, remember the various promises, Ben, that you were just breaking down that he made to the American people with these tariffs, all the lies, all the scams. We're going to get rich. There's going to be no more income tax anymore. Manufacturing is going to be rushing our way. Everything's going to be great. Meanwhile, what happened? We had shortages at the ports. We had no ships coming in. We had a bond market in crisis. We had stocks in crisis. Donald Trump panicking, reacting to all that news, begging every single day China to come to the table with him. And finally, he gives President Xi everything that Xi wants. And then we're supposed to act like this is some sort of genius deal-making like master class. I mean, give me a goddamn break here. It's unbelievable.
The art of the deal.
I
mean, that's why you accurately describe it as the Ponzi scheme presidency.
Yeah, and all of this stuff, because it's Ponzi scheme here, Ponzi scheme there, and who gets rich in the Ponzi scheme? The Ponzi schemer, until they ultimately, get busted, right? And so we'll get back to the China cave in a moment, but let's talk about Qatar here. Before talking about the jet 747 aircraft that's going to be gifted to Donald Trump, and then Trump his own personal library, which basically, I'm not sure how you gift a plane to an active plane to a library, which means
libraries don't fly planes. We could all agree libraries don't fly planes, right? The person can fly the plane.
Exactly. So it's basically a gift to Donald Trump. I mean, this thing's got gold-plated walls, golden toilet bowls, golden beds. And it's one of those things that, Trump probably said to the emir, I like this. I want that. You got to give me one of those. And obviously there's a quid pro quo, aspect to this. So Trump is, one of the evidences of that is Trump's traveling to the Middle East, and he's going to be meeting with Qatar. He's going to be meeting with Saudi Arabia. He's going to be meeting with the United Arab Emirates. And Trump has multiple deals with these sovereign wealth funds from these countries. Trump resorts in Qatar in addition to the airplane. Trump resorts in Oman, that's being built by the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund is using the Trump crypto as one of its kind of major forms of currency for its transactions, which kicks back fees to Donald Trump as that kind of crypto is being used as kind of one of the forms of currency, and it props up, one of these Trump ventures. There's not to mention all the other grifts they're doing, like Don Jr. creating a club called the Executive Branch with the crypto czar while Abu Dhabi is using the Trump crypto. It costs $500,000 to be a member of this club. And as we've seen with all of these clubs and exclusive whatever, Trump gives these people preferential access to him. I mean, look, Donald Trump is selling access.
Pause for a second. He's calling it the executive branch. Like all this talk over the past few years, all the sort of, was Hunter Biden selling access, even though like all that crap that was going on. And Donald Trump Jr. is running a grift that he literally calls the executive branch. I just need that to sit in people's brains just for 1 second. Sorry, I had to point it out.
Well, and not a peep do you really hear, right? I keep bringing it up because I don't want to lose these threads, which are actually massive scams and scandals, which in our current environment are no longer reported. I'll give Dan Goldman, Congressmember Goldman, credit because he kind of checked me on something that I was saying, and he was right about this. And it's an important point, to admit when I was wrong. I wasn't trying to be wrong, but one of the things I said to Congressmember Goldman is I said, look, when the Democrats win in 2026, this has to be, you're going to be doing a lot of investigation. He goes, Ben, let me just be very clear here, though. Yes, of course. But why is it all of a sudden that the Democrats have to be the ones to look into this? He's so right. The accountability structure right now needs to be focused on why the hell aren't Republicans looking into this? There's still a Congress. And so why is it that when you have an authoritarian and when you have a political party that gives away all of its co-equal branch authority, is it therefore just accepted that they get to play by a different set of rules? And then someone like former President Biden or someone like Obama gets held to a standard where if you're wearing a colored suit that doesn't satisfy the media, that becomes a massive week-long scandal, and you're held to a completely different standard. Congressmember Goldman was so right about that. And by the way, he was on the episode this morning. We were doing one of the episodes where we were talking about the Epstein files and the fact that, and we cover this relentlessly here on the MeidasTouch Network, that there seems to be a concerted cover-up by Pam Bondi in the White House to not release these files after claiming they were going to release it. It was an exclusive we got here at the MeidasTouch Network. And as you all know, I'm proud of all of the exclusives that we've been breaking here on the MeidasTouch Network, exclusives like that and a major exclusive, whether it was the Virginia governor's race, the governor's race in New Mexico, where some of our reporting has really been played a major impact in those elections. Anyway, I digress. Let me get back though to talking about the influence and the Qatar jet. So we talked about all these other Mideast sovereign wealth fund contributions to Donald Trump. Well, now we're talking about a $400 million jet. My guess, though, first off, is that $400 million is less than it is. I would say that it's probably somewhere in the range of $1.5 billion. Why do I say that? Because they lie about everything, number one. And number two, it's gold-plated this, gold-plated that, gold-plated everything. And if you know like what a gold, and I believe with Qatar, it's probably real gold, not Trump fake gold. Like the fake gold he has all over the Oval Office. I think with Qatar, they probably have real gold on, thinking what that royal family does. So I think it's probably more like 1.2 billion. The baseline of that jet is whatever. And it's given to Trump to then go to his library. So it's basically for Trump's personal use. Come on. And I don't just want to talk about it like how bad that is, but I want to talk about it at the same. I think we always have to contextualize it, right? Prices are not going down right now. Inflation is going up. Housing is not more affordable right now. Americans are struggling. While Trump lies and says, we've solved everything. Everything is great. So while American people are suffering, can't afford homes, Trump defrauded everybody. The Ponzi schemer, what's he doing? He's taking $400 million to $1.2 billion private jets for himself. And then he's saying that this is a great thing for America.
But I want to remind everybody here, there's a reason why the Boeing jet that was being designed to be the next Air Force One was not yet completed. It's because they had to redesign the whole plane to ensure that it had proper security features in Air Force One. It's one of the reasons why it's been delayed a little bit throughout this process. And so Trump's solve to this process is apparently now to get a jet from Qatar that doesn't have any of that security, that doesn't solve that issue. That's now going to be a national security issue in addition to a blatant corruption bribery issue that we are seeing. Just none of it makes sense. And if you notice, Trump also, what's his like big line, right? America first. His whole thing is we're going to take on the globalists, the this and the that. Donald Trump always appears to be the biggest globalist in one situation. That's when it benefits himself. If it benefits Donald Trump, he's doing deals with the Saudis. He's doing deals with the Qataris. He's not doing deals for you. He's doing deals for himself. How could this help me? How could this help my rich buddies? How could I manipulate the market to help my friends? That's Donald Trump's brand of globalism that we're seeing. It's not for the American people. It's how could he put more money in his pocket?
And to that point exactly, Brett, what's Trump's defense when pressed on this? I would be a stupid person if I said no. That's literally what he said. I'd be like a stupid person if I said no. It's not about you, Donnie. It's not about you.
So, but think about it too. Like even Brett, you mentioned some Middle East nations, but think about the deal with the UK, United Kingdom, right? Who did Trump's deal benefit? Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, and Land Rover over American manufacturers. Right now, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Rolls-Royce have a better deal than General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. I just want you to think about that. That was Trump's first move, was helping luxury cars from the UK over American manufacturers. I mean, just look at it like that. Jordy, to your point right there, Donald Trump held a press conference and he was asked by a reporter, what do you have to say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? I'm surprised it doesn't have to be phrased like that. Like the people who are saying that are accurately like it is a gift to him. That is what it is. It is a gift to Donald Trump, not a gift to, if it's anything to our Defense Department, it is a Trojan horse. It is the perfect way for a foreign company to harm our Defense Department if we're going to be accepting a foreign-made Air Force One. A foreign-made Air Force One? What are we talking about? Here, play this clip.
It's going to be very interesting.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully.
When Qatar is behind funding for Hamas, gives you a putter, you say thank you. You're the United States of America. Your Air Force One is now going to be a hand-me-down gaudy golden jet from the Qatari Emir. Thank you. That's what America's supposed to be proud of today. That's the new talking point now, that all these MAGA mush brain losers in Congress and the Senate are going to have to do. We're so great. We got the hand-me-downs from Qatari Emir to Donald Trump instead of our own Air Force One when we're the United States of America. Here, by the way, Donald Trump continues on that path and says, I could be a stupid person and say we don't want a free plane. Here, watch this.
And it's going to be a while before we get them. And I think Qatar, who has really, we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety. I think they, and very, very nicely, and I have a lot of respect for the leadership and for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. And they knew about it. And they said, we would like to do something. And if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out because, again, we're talking about we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture.
I just want you to reflect on what he said, right? Boeing, an American manufacturer, had sold this jet to Qatar from before. Then Donald Trump saying that, and then Qatar then wants to give it, now that Qatar's used it and the Emirs used it, they want to give it back to Donald Trump. He said something about tippy-toppy. I don't even know what he's even talking about there. The maintenance costs are still going to be the maintenance costs. And if this is going to satisfy even our Defense Department criteria, you're going to have to disassemble the entire plane and reassemble it to make sure that it's not bugged. And you are a stupid person, to use your language, if you think it's not bugged. If you think that you've got such a great friendship with the Emir that they're going to not bug it, you've got it. You are truly a stupid person. So now our most private and classified information is going to go into the hands of Qatar. And we've just we could talk about the bribe and the gift, but let's also talk about that he just compromised all of our national security the same way, or way worse, actually, than the fact that they're having conversations on Signal about war targets, and then they're telling us it's not classified. I want to take our first quick break of the show. We've got a lot more to discuss, but we have to talk about it in the right context like that, because that's what I think sets apart this network than other things. Like what we said there is how you have to report on it. If you want to report on it accurately. Everything I said there was objective facts. That wasn't like, I'm not giving you my opinion. Those are the facts. That's what it is. Now, after all of that, you may say, I think this is a great deal that he gets the plane. I think that would be ridiculous, but at least you have the facts, not be, oh, you're ABC, you're fake news. I mean, it's ridiculous. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about Trump caving yet again on this China consensus that was reached, where basically it's Trump withdrawing. Let's talk about the exclusive that Dan Goldman gave us on the MeidasTouch Network, and let's talk about more. But let's take our first quick break.
Millions of Americans grind or clench their teeth at night, and most don't even know that they're doing it. I was one of them. If you have jaw pain or headaches after a night's sleep, there's a high chance you grind or clench your teeth. Teeth grinding, also known as bruxism or TMJ, is generally caused by stress, and it can cause serious damage, such as eroding away your enamel and broken teeth, which leads to expensive dental bills. The solution to protecting your teeth is a mouth guard, but mouth guards from the dentist can cost you around $500 to $800. The good news is that there's Remy. Remy makes dental-grade professional quality mouth guards without the painful price tag. They're up to 80% cheaper of what you'd pay at the dentist and don't require you to visit a dental office. Remy's process is simple. They send you an at-home impression kit to create molds of your teeth. You send those back to Remy, and Remy's dental team will make your custom-fit guards and send them right back to you. Remy's guards are so comfortable to wear that most customers forget they're even wearing them. Plus, with a 45-night satisfaction guarantee, you can try it risk-free, sleep better, and decide if it's the perfect fit. If not, Remy's got you covered. Look, I've done the whole Remy process. It's phenomenal. Their team is incredible. The product is perfect. Definitely check it out if you fit this category. Remy is for anyone dealing with nighttime grinding, clenching, or jaw pain who wants an affordable solution to protect their smile and say goodnight to jaw pain and headaches. Head to shopremy.com/Meidas and use code Meidas to save up to 50%. That's 50% off at shopremi.com/Meidas with code Meidas. Give your teeth a break without breaking the bank with Remy. Thank you, Remy, for sponsoring this episode. We live in an environment that our biology was never designed for. EMFs, artificial light, seed oils, microplastics, endocrine disruptors, chronic stress. Now these modern assaults, they disrupt our cellular signaling, negatively impacting gut health and accelerating aging. Armra Colostrum revives cellular signaling, bolstering our health from within to defend against everyday threats. Colostrum is nature's first whole food with over 400 bioactive nutrients that work at the cellular level to reactivate your body's innate capacity to regenerate and thrive. Are you ready to reclaim your health? Look, I love Armra Colostrum. I know you will too. It has helped me so much. We've worked out a special offer for our audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/Meidas. Tryarmra.com/Meidas. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in descriptions of both the audio and the YouTube. Click the links, use our codes, let them know we sent you. Real quick, if you're just joining us, we are in New York for the Webby Awards. We won Podcast of the Year. Thanks to y'all. Seriously, thanks to you guys. You guys made that possible. If you're not already, please subscribe to the audio version of the MeidasTouch podcast. It's super helpful, and it's the whole reason why we got here in the first place. Over break, Ben, I was thinking this situation is interesting because I feel like time and time again when we do these trips, Brett and I are usually the ones recording together, and you get your own fancy room. So just gonna put that out there. And then the other thing is, I was thinking Brett's Terry Moraning me a little bit right now, right? A little forced perception. Brett up front, me like way in the back over here. A little forced perception here by Bert.
Yeah, you have to explain to our viewers what you mean by that. In the Terry Moran interview with Donald Trump
Okay.
on ABC,
They
Terry
know.
Moran looked like he was a giant, and Trump looked like he was very, very small. And then I had to look up how tall Terry Moran is. I'm like, is this guy 6'9" or 6'10"? And he was like 5'9", 5'10". And so they made the ABC just kind of made Moran look so much bigger based on the angles that they looked. And it was actually, I mean, I thought he actually did probably, among all of the bad interviews I've seen reporters do of Trump, I think his was probably the best one. I'm not going to say it was a great interview, but he did a pretty decent job. All right, let's talk about what went down in Switzerland over the weekend at the United States request, because ships were not coming into our ports anymore. The United States met with China in Switzerland to discuss the trade war that the United States initiated against the world, but specifically here against China, where Trump all of a sudden like escalated it from, initially 30% to 50% to 145%. China responded with 125% tariffs, which effectively meant a trading embargo between the United States and China. There's almost like a $1 trillion annual trading relationship between the US and China. So that was actually devastating to the United States economy. China, if you actually looked at the data, they were able to basically send their goods elsewhere, and their economy seemed to actually be increasing despite the propaganda from Trump saying the contrary was happening. So the United States needed a way to de-escalate the situation, is how at least it appeared to me. And then so they met in Switzerland for 2 days. And I think the language of the sides tells you a lot about what took place, right? The United States referring to it as a historical reset, a massive deal, and then our media reflected it that way. The way China talked about it was a consensus that was reached for de-escalation, that there will be talks that lead to more talks in the future. But for now, the United States would drop its tariffs from 145% to 30%, which, let's be clear, that's a tax on the American importer passed on to the American consumer. And on the other hand, China would drop its tariffs against the United States from 125% to a 10%, essentially a 10% tax on its people. Now, if you actually read the wording of the deal itself, which is what I tried to do, the wording of the deal certainly it doesn't use the word deal. Let me be very clear there. It uses the word consensus. So let me be clear about my language as well. And it says that there's discussions to discuss more, but that the U.S. is going to, that level that I just discussed, 30%, and China is going to 10%. If you just take a look at how China is messaging this at home, they've got like cartoons of Uncle Sam being uppercut by another cartoon image of some, a being that represents tariffs. And then when you read how China describes the whole situation, let me just share with you what they're saying so you understand at least how they're messaging this. As a major power in the world, the U.S. should act as such in a responsible way. However, the frequent backsliding and wanton changes in trade rules of the government have damaged the country's credibility of itself. The U.S. has become an unreliable and fickle player in global economic governance, with its strategic credibility and international status being continuously eroded by its short-sighted behavior. The U.S. is trying to curb China's economic development through high tariffs, but the reality is quite the opposite. The global supply chain has formed an intricate network, and China has cultivated irreplaceable advantages in basic manufacturing, support industries, and labor. The high tariff policy of the U.S. will not be able to hit China, which in turn will seriously damage its own economic interest. China will not succumb to any form of economic coercion and will resolutely defend its legitimate rights and interests in national security through corresponding countermeasures in accordance with relevant laws and regulations and the basic principles of international law. The Chinese government had taken a series of precise countermeasures. Then it goes on to talk about history has long proven the large-scale unilateral tariff hikes will only lead to more sanctions lists and tit-for-tat confrontations, escalating tensions between the countries. Now, that message is not only intended for the people who live in China, but it's also intended for the rest of the world. Because one of the big problems that has arisen out of this trade war is that the United States' credibility as a stable player in international trade has been potentially irreparably damaged. As we posted on the MeidasTouch account, social media accounts, we basically said U.S. and China agreed a 90-day pause on new tariffs after shipping to U.S. ports plummeted. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will be cut from 145% to 30%. Chinese tariffs on U.S. imports will be cut from 125% to 10%. If tariffs are supposed to result in massive job growth and make the U.S. rich, why is Trump lowering them? I mean, and then this graphic for our audio listeners is a graphic of Trump saying, I'm adding tariffs. And then his MAGA supporters go, this will create jobs. Then Trump goes, I'm removing the tariffs. Then the MAGA supporters go, art of the deal. Then Trump says, I'm adding tariffs. Then the MAGA supporters go, this will create jobs. And then Trump says, I'm removing tariffs. They go, this will be the art of the deal. Donald Trump's been saying that the fact that no ships are coming to our ports is a great sign that America is winning this thing. He doesn't want to see the ships coming to our port, he said. He said that we're going to be taking in so much money on these tariffs from China that we are not even going to need to have an income tax anymore.
By the way, even what you just said there is a contradiction in and of itself. If there are no ships coming in, then we are thereby not receiving any tariff revenue, and we are thereby not getting rich, as Donald Trump puts it. Everything he says contradicts the next thing he says in this argument, and he keeps kind of just deciding which one he wants to do just based on a whim. He just kind of throws it all out there and hope it sticks, even when none of it makes any sense whatsoever.
I'll give you two data points. One from economics professor from Michigan University, Justin Wolfers, who says there are two ways to frame this news. One, U.S. trade policy and our macroeconomic prospects are much better today than they were yesterday. Or two, U.S. trade policy and our macroeconomic prospects are much worse today than on Inauguration Day. Both are true. I mean, China got, you have to understand, China got what it wanted out of this deal because China wants to keep its markets open to American products. That's why it's only going to, have a 10% tariff. The U.S., while backing down from 145%, is still keeping a 30% tariff, which is going to be high, and that is going to be passed on to consumers. And businesses are going to use this as a pretext as well to raise prices to try to increase their profits as well. Let me tell you how Charles Gasparino, a Fox host or a Fox business writer, New York Post writer as well. Here's what he says. Breaking. Trump raised tariffs on the world. The markets, particularly the bond market, which we need to finance our debt, rebelled. Trump then was forced to back off. End of story. He goes on to say basically the same. And what was Trump talking about today? Trump says that what did we, I mean this sincerely. What did we get from China? I asked the question on social media. I said, what is it that we got from this deal? Let me know. I mean, for real. If I'm missing something, then all the MAGA people, Brett, who literally are right out of Central Casting from the meme that you create are like, we redid the trade deal. Like, no, we didn't. There was literally nothing that changed. The only thing that Donald Trump can point to is he says that he believes that there will be less fentanyl coming in from China. And he says, I take them at their word, whatever that means. I take them at their word. Play this clip of Trump saying that from today.
But so that's a very important subject to me. Because everybody in this room has lost friends or people that have family members that have died of fentanyl. So there's a big incentive for China to stop, and I take them at their word. They're going to work on that, I think, very hard.
By the way, last week, Donald Trump said that he took the Houthis at their word and praised their bravery and basically shouted them out nicer than you've ever heard him talk about Ukraine or Canada or Europe or any of our actual allies. I take the Houthis at their word. Who takes the Houthis at their word? By the way, that was barely a story as well. I did a whole video here on the MeidasTouch Network. But what Trump did there also is part of his predatory behavior, as we'll soon talk about the healthcare costs. Trump recognizes that fentanyl is a major issue. It's true that we probably all have someone in our family or someone who's a friend or someone that we know who's died of a fentanyl overdose or who's died of opioids and whose life has been severely harmed. So Trump, this is what he knows. He knows it's a bad deal. So he uses fentanyl as a way to pull on the heartstrings and lie to people that he's extracted some benefit that's going to result in less fentanyl coming in. And there's nothing in the deal or lack of a deal. There's nothing in the consensus in the joint statement that says anything like that at all. And let me just
remind everybody, say, none of this happened, right? Reset, like, let's go back months from now, right? Months ago. And Donald Trump comes out today and he announces the exact parameters of this deal. We are increasing tariffs by 30% on China. China has increased tariffs on us. It would be like pandemonium, it would be like the Liberation Day disaster, so-called, that this is just going back to that, these are the tariffs that have been rolled back aren't even those tariffs. The tariffs that have been rolled back are the additional ones when Donald Trump threw a tantrum because China decided to actually stick up for themselves after Donald Trump attacked them with these various tariffs. So you got to put it in perspective too, because when you have media and when you have Trump and all the MAGA people try to claim this as some sort of major victory, we're not even back to zero. We're still above where they were today. That's why the Wolfers tweet that we showed before, Ben, his statements, were so on point because, he shows that literally we are still in a much worse place than we were since the inauguration. This is still devastating for American families, for American workers, for American consumers. This is still leading us on a path where we are very likely to enter a recession. Not to mention the fact you can't exactly just unwind all this stuff that Donald Trump did overnight. Remember, the port orders, the orders that we are seeing of these ships, the freight coming into the ports across the country, whether it be Los Angeles or Seattle or you name it, those are already set in stone right now. That's already happening right now as we speak. Dock workers are being fired right now as we speak. The shortages are happening right now as we speak. And just because Donald Trump rolled these tariffs back does not mean all of that is even fixed tomorrow. Not to mention the uncertainty that this also puts into the entire economy. Not to mention the fact that say you're the biggest Trump supporting business on the planet and you go, oh, he's putting in these tariffs. I'm going to change my whole business model right now in order to accommodate these tariffs. I'm going to try to bring manufacturing here. I'm going to try to change things around. Donald Trump just screwed you also. You're in the middle of doing all that. Donald Trump just made all that worthless. So how could you make any long-term business decisions at all right now if you don't know what Donald Trump is going to do? If he's just going to decide on a whim, tariffs on, tariffs off, I'm the best, love it, enjoy your $1, enjoy your Range Rover. The whole thing is just so insane.
And again, the deeper issue too is that the overall brand of America, and this is China's strategic thinking of this. Now, you may not like that you hear, I'm just letting you know what the reality is, what China's thinking about this. China's like, we stood up to them. They withdrew a crazy 145% tariff away. We gave up nothing for it. And we look, this is what China always wanted. We look like the adult and they look like what people thought China was. We look like America and they look like China. That's That's what China wanted. And now they're saying that's what China looks like now. And America is looked at as this crazy actor. And then you may go, well, look, so another administration comes back in afterwards and fixes it. The problem is that the trauma that this injects on the overall macroeconomics of policy is such that the world then says, well, how do we know that this country is not going to bring back in another Trump in 8 years from now or 4 years from now, and we're going to be at this again? So there's short-term stuff, but the longer-term stuff is how China thinks about things, a civilization that's been around for 5,000 years, and they're playing the long game. And Trump is playing a game to win the headlines every day. And this may be an example. Did Trump win the headlines from corporate media that framed this as a good deal and the markets went up? But the reality is, and why people are not watching corporate news and watching Meidas, is because people know that's bullshit. And people know what they're experiencing. And they don't want to be told by billionaires and oligarchs that what they're experiencing is not real, and we have to live in Trump's make-believe reality TV show world when we, the people, are really suffering. And they want people who speak to that and go, I know what's really going on, and this is bullshit, what just happened. Market manipulation, billionaires made money buying dips and going up, and regular people had to drain their 529s and 401ks and pensions because they were really screwed by this, if they even could have that. People can't afford homes, people losing their jobs, our economy contracted while China's economy is growing. And under former President Biden, America was number one in GDP growth in the world, with record low unemployment, record job growth, and bringing infrastructure here to the United States. Not to mention, we were the number one oil producer and exporter in the world as well. And right now, after all, by the way, of all of Trump's drill, baby drill, he's also crushing the oil, and he's also destroying his oil donors. So this is systemic issues, and this will reemerge. We got to take our last quick break of the show. When we come back, I do want to talk about Trump's scheme, and I want to explain it to you, what this most favored nation's healthcare scheme is. And I want to make sure I call it a scheme, because that's what it is. And we'll talk about Goldman and the Epstein files and requesting them. And we'll talk about that. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
Did you know Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the US with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Live and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. I got a lemon tree from Fast Growing Trees, and it's my favorite thing in my yard. I was worried about ordering plants online, but it arrived fresh, strong, and ready to plant. Plus, now I get to just walk outside and pick my own citrus, not to mention it smells amazing every time I go out. And by the way, big yard, small yard, no yard at all, doesn't matter. Fast Growing Trees has over 6,000 plants that fit any space, from indoor plants to fruit trees to full-size privacy trees and more. Fast Growing Trees has plant experts on call, so if you're like me and don't have a green thumb, they'll help you choose the right plant and keep it thriving. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Meidas at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Meidas, M-E-I-D-A-S, at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Meidas. Now is the perfect time to plant. Use Meidas to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
I know that you know that I had some pretty bad allergies. I'd read them in the comments, and you said, Ben, you got to do something about it. So I did. I got Allermy. This podcast is sponsored by Allermy. Are your allergies overwhelming you like they were overwhelming me? Allermy has the first and only custom nasal spray to treat your specific symptoms as they treated mine. Standard meds don't work for everyone, and specialists are hard to find. Accessible, affordable, and effective allergy care from Allermy means you're free to do what you love to do all year long without allergies getting in the way. Don't spend another allergy season suffering after completing a quick online consultation that's reviewed by Allermy's medical team. They will formulate your unique spray. They'll send you a custom allergy kit with a moisturizing saline spray and your custom super spray for fast relief that's tailored to you. One of my favorite parts about being an Allermy patient is their app. On-demand expert care is very helpful when I need it. Allermy's Energy Kit is so easy to use, just a few sprays and I'm done. Plus they deliver it directly to me. And again, one of the things I like about it too is it's prescription strength, it's FDA approved, and it means you get medication that you can trust that really works. I want to just give you our discount code if I can. You head to Allermy.com and you use the code Meidas. You get 60% off your order. Once again, that's Allermy. And then you use our code Meidas for 60% off. And you'll get the promo code Meidas so they know I sent you. Allermy.com. Use the code Meidas for 60% off your order. One more time, Allermy.com. Allermy.com and use the code Meidas. Let's go. Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors right there. The discount codes are in the description below. We've got a few things to cover right now, some important stuff as well, including, by the way, the tax bill by the MAGA Republicans. I think it's going to be adding $4 trillion to the debt limit, like the least fiscally responsible people out there. We'll cover that. But first, let's talk about what Democratic Congress member Dan Goldman did today. And I think I think this is an important issue. You all know here at the MeidasTouch Network that we keep on this story. And we've been talking about the Epstein list, which more properly should be talked about as the Epstein files, court documents, videos, under seal filings of the co-conspirators, the people who were involved with Epstein. There have been prior document dumps years ago. Trump's name is in them. Trump's name is in deposition transcripts of women Epstein traffic going to Trump casinos. Trump's on Epstein's flight log at least 7 times, but it's only a partial release of the flight log. There's Epstein's call list, or like Rolodex basically in Trump's name, like Trump's bodyguards and like various Trump phone numbers are all over Epstein's phone and contact list. We know Epstein was on Trump's jet. A 14-year-old girl at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. She's not now a woman, but when she was 14, she was a Jane Doe at Ghislaine's trial. Said when she was 14, she was introduced to Trump by Ghislaine and Epstein. Trump, I think, is listed as Doe, so 171 or 173 or 178, something in the 170s. A Doe, what was it, 171?
174.
174, so I'm bound to get one right, but I guess all of them wrong. Doe 174 in one of the proceedings. So we would know. If I was the lawyer on the case, I would say document request. Give me every information about Doe 174. Give me all the grand jury testimony from Jane Doe, who was 14 years old at the time. Give me, it would be an easy request to basically find out this stuff. The Trump MAGA world, in spreading all of their Epstein conspiracies, have been trying to, blame everybody else as being involved in this with Epstein. But Trump was like, it's always project. This is like one of the ultimate projection and confession, because Trump's, was like Epstein's closest friend. Like they were like best friends in Palm Beach for at least a period of time. That's how Epstein at least classified it. They would party together. They would hang out together. Epstein would find girls that he trafficked at Mar-a-Lago. Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide. She was homeless. Then she got a job at Mar-a-Lago. And then Ghislaine Maxwell found her at Mar-a-Lago, brought her to Epstein, and Epstein trafficked her. So we've been documenting this. And Pam Bondi's been lying and saying that she was going to turn over the documents. And at first she invited all these right-wing influencers, gave them binders, and they try to defraud the American people. They held it up and pretended they had the Epstein files. It was like, that's the phone log that's been released years ago. And by the way, it has Trump's name on it. But that's not the files. There's probably terabytes of information. They've blown every one of their deadlines now where they said this is going to be turned over. They just want us to forget about it. But we keep talking about it, even if corporate news doesn't want to talk about it. And, it's good to see impact journalism, too, where it's having an impact. Democratic Congressmember Dan Goldman
Hey, can I just
with us.
pause on Pam Bondi for a second? Because I think Pam Bondi is an interesting character that's kind of emerging throughout the many facets of corruption of the Trump administration right now. Because you look at this Epstein situation right now, for example, who was the AG, who was the Attorney General of Florida when Epstein essentially got a slap on the wrist during his crime spree? Pam Bondi. She was the Attorney General. She could have done something. Pam Bondi did not. Pam Bondi basically let Epstein off the hook. That's my one point of view, right? Now, that's my one point right there. Now, let's go back to what we were speaking about earlier in the episode, right? Qatar and the Qatari jet that was given to Donald Trump. What is the linkage there with Pam Bondi and this? Why was Pam Bondi chosen as Attorney General after Matt Gaetz? Well, in the situation of Qatar, Pam Bondi was literally a foreign agent of the Qatari government. Let me repeat that. Pam Bondi was literally a registered foreign agent of Qatar. She was paid handsomely for being a registered foreign agent of Qatar. Pam Bondi was paid what, Ben? $115,000 per month. Per month.
A month.
Let me repeat that as well. $115,000 per month to be a registered agent for Qatar, to be a consultant of the Qatari government. Now, when you see her approve these purchases of the jet, for example, from the Qataris, when you see her apparently brush aside all this Epstein stuff, and then you look into her recent past and you see, oh, wait, she's got this interesting connection to Epstein here. Oh, wait, she's got this interesting connection to the Qataris here. Doesn't it all kind of go, oh, at least this is an interesting link right here that you can make between the person who Donald Trump decided out of all people to choose as his attorney general. I mean, I just feel like this isn't focused on enough. And so I needed to bring it up. But Ben.
So Dan Goldman sent this letter to Pam Bondi saying, what's up? Turn it over. And he also said, I'm a former 10-year federal prosecutor. I know that this stuff could be released by now. What are you doing? It's very easy if you wanted this released. And also let me know, and this is what I think was powerful about his letter, the connections to Trump. Is your whole purpose of this delay going through this to redact any references to Trump? Because what else is taking you this amount of time? Is that what you're doing? We want to know that. Now, here's what Goldman said when I interviewed him in a MeidasTouch exclusive. Let's play it.
And so there was a mad dash and a big rush to release everything, and everyone was talking about it. And now there's radio silence. And begs the question, why has the Attorney General gone dark on this? Why has Congresswoman Luna and others stopped calling for it? What is it that's in the Epstein files that they were so eager to have that now are just not being released according to the Attorney General's promises of transparency, but are still there? And there's no explanation. And the concern I have, of course, is we know Donald Trump had a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. We know Jeffrey Epstein had numerous numbers for Donald Trump. And the question then is, was this some sort of directive from Donald Trump or someone on his staff or an agent of his to the Attorney General to kill this? And that would be yet another pretty egregious act of corruption using his position as president for his own personal benefit. It is incumbent upon the Republicans currently in the majority to do their damn job, and conduct oversight over the president of the United States. Stop sucking up to him so much.
Powerful stuff right there. And glad that we could break that here on the MeidasTouch Network. Let's talk about
for anyone who wants to hear the full interview with Dan Goldman. Make sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can listen to the exclusive interview right there. You could also watch on YouTube, but I'm telling you, check it out on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I know you guys will love it. If you've already added the MeidasTouch podcast, also be sure to leave a 5-star review. It really helps.
Oh, absolutely, Brett. Now, just talk briefly about this healthcare scam that Trump's been engaged in. And again, I think we all would like to see lower prescription drug prices, lower healthcare costs, right? There's a way to do that. And a way to do that is you go and you pass legislation. And one of the things that I think is a way you reduce prices and why prices are cheaper in other countries is that the government speaks with one voice and it reduces the prices as it negotiates a reduction. The way right now, former President Biden was able to get it done with Medicare, but he was not able to do it in the private sector because people like Trump and MAGA blocked that from taking place. If you could have the government negotiate across all pharmaceutical companies and drug manufacturers, you could lower the prices while still having market forces at play, but you would significantly drive the prices down. MAGA blocked that. So what Trump's gimmick is, and what he's saying he's going to do, and in this long meandering social media post, is in theory, I guess if you get it done, it's not a bad thing. He says it's unfair that in foreign countries, people are paying less for pharmaceuticals. True. And America should pay the same amount of money as people are paying in other countries for pharmaceuticals. True. So Trump says he's issuing an executive order that will right away lower prescription drug prices by 80 to 90%. That's false. That's false. So now you're playing with people's lives. You're pulling at their heartstrings, their health. And you're leading people to believe you're doing something that you're not going to actually be able to do. One, the executive order is not a law. So you can't, by executive order, decree this. You can't. It will be deemed invalid by courts. It's dead on arrival. Because an executive order doesn't have the force to do this.
And
so
by the way, Trump tried to do a very similar executive order in his first term as well, and it was shot down by the courts. And so he's basically, it's essentially a rehash of that, which was already deemed out of his, purview here.
If you want to lower the prices, you don't do it by a phony executive order. What you do is you say to Congress, pass universal health care. And make it accessible and free and affordable to all Americans. Make it a right. That's what exists in other countries. That's why it's lower. But you see, Trump is using this as a way to try to attack other countries and particularly attack the countries in Europe that he says he wants to investigate the countries, not the companies. And so what could end up happening is that these companies have to now increase their prices abroad as well, or take their products out of the United States to begin with, create scarcity issues, versus actually, if you want to deal with this, if this isn't a gimmick, if this isn't a scam, then we should just do it the right way. Instead, what the MAGA Republicans are doing is their new kind of tax bill, top line, bottom line numbers are out. They have to increase the debt ceiling under their policy by, what was it, at least? They want to do it, what, $4 trillion in tax cuts, and they want to increase the debt limit by $4 trillion to make way for like $4 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires, not for regular folks, for the richest Americans. And they're going to find this money, again, one, by making it up, by lying that these tariffs have raised all this money, which they have not. That's one of their scams. And the other scam that they're going to do is they're going to take this away from Medicaid and education and all of the other services. They're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. In this case, Paul is the billionaire oligarch, and they're going to get paid in the form of massive tax cuts for the wealthy.
By the
Well,
way,
may-
Ben, this also shows how just malleable all the kind of MAGA supporters are on literally any issue. That, save for maybe Laura Loomer, who actually pushes back on Trump, oddly enough. But you see all of these people. It's very, very weird times, folks. But you see all these people right after Donald Trump made this, this kind of scam announcement about here's how we're going to do this lower drug prices thing. All the MAGA people who spent the last few years, anytime any sort of Democrat called for caps on price gouging or anything of the like, whether it be with prescription drugs or grocery prices, you name it. What did they say? This is communism. You're a communist. Donald Trump said this during the campaign. He called stuff like this communist, all that. This is communist. It never works. It's been tried. It's communism. It's communism. It's communism. And you know who would never go for any of this stuff other than the decreasing the tax burden on the wealthiest Americans are the Republicans in Congress as well. So part of the scam that Trump is playing here, he knows that they're not going to go for this. He knows that this is going to be shot down in the courts. And I'm all for lowering drug prices, honestly, by any means. I'm fine. I'm frankly fine with Donald Trump trying this. Like I'm going to say that. Sure, go for it. But what I don't like is how he's manipulating people into thinking that this is actually going to be something that happens. Because like Ben said, this is playing with people's lives here. And we know that it is going to get shot down in the courts. We know that the way to do this is via the Congress. And I think one of the interesting approaches, one interesting approach I've seen, and at least I think it's a unique approach. I don't know your thoughts, Ben or Jordy, but I saw Ro Khanna yesterday, Congressman Ro Khanna say, all right, Donald, you want to do this thing? All right, let's put a bill on the floor. Okay. Let's do a law. Okay, let's get the Republicans. Let's all do this. We'll pass this bill. Okay, we'll cap the prescription drug prices. You ready? Bet. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Ro Khanna knows that's not going to happen. He knows that this is all just a scam by Donald Trump. But it's just his latest scam. It's this with everything. And if you notice, just across the board, Trump dangles these things that he knows that will never happen. Even, for example, one of the things that Trump has kind of pushed out there through all these sort of side sources and things just so he could be asked about it is, Donald Trump might actually be open to raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans. He might actually be open to this idea. Something he knows is never going to happen. And then Donald Trump is asked about it. He goes, oh, yeah, I'm all for it. Oh, wait, what? The Congress won't let me do it. I was gonna do it, but you know what?
Hands are tied.
My hands are tied. I just can't do it. So I actually got to give them a massive tax cut. I'm sorry. I just couldn't do anything. Oh, you wanted those Doge checks? You wanted 5,000? You thought it was Doge checks? I just can't. I can't. They won't let me. You got to ask Congress. You got to ask Mike Johnson. It's the same scam over and over. He dangles these things at people and says, "Oh, look, I might actually be okay with this sort of thing," and then he pulls it back, which is just to me even worse than him not doing anything at all. The way he gets people's hopes up with these things, the way he manipulates people, it's just really atrocious.
So I'll say this as we conclude. Let me share with you from Trump's own media company, his own personal private company. How is he handling things with his own company, right? I'll just read from you his latest filing. Here's what it says, based on their financials, by the way, where they show another really kind of atrocious quarter where they lost $31.7 million on $821,000 in net sales. Here's what it says. Based on this evaluation, as of March 31st, 2025, the certifying officers of Trump Media concluded that our disclosure controls and procedures were not effective as of that date due to material weaknesses in our internal controls over financial reporting, including our failure to design and maintain formal accounting policies, processes, and controls to analyze and account for complex transactions, as well as a need for additional accounting personnel who have the requisite experience in SEC reporting regulation. That's Trump's own filing on his own company, where he can't even balance his own books, or setting aside balance, he can't even assemble a team for his own company, which is only doing $821,000 in net sales. He thinks that is too complex for what his accountants were able to do, and therefore they're not effective, and there are now material weaknesses in their internal controls.
That's like 7 months of Pam Bondi's contract with Qatar. That's all they did.
These are the people, exactly. These are the people who are running the most complex economy in the world, who can't run $821,000 in net sales. That's $821,000 net sales, too complex. The American economy. Just think about it. And the whole world sees it now. They should have seen it before, but it's to the rest of the world. They get it. Now, if American media wants to, be a propaganda arm for the Trump regime and claim that this is, we're so strong, America. Okay, I mean, you're doing that at your own peril. Like, you're doing that at the expense of harm to America. And so we here on the MeidasTouch Network, we're just going to continue reporting the truth. We're going to report the facts. We're going to connect all of these ideas together. We're not going to forget about things. And, and that's why, I am thrilled about the growth of this network. And, we're recording this early today because we are going to the Webbies. And thanks to you, the Meidas Mighty, the MeidasTouch Podcast has been named Podcast of the Year by the Webbies, which is their top award, their top honor. So we've got to get ready for that right now. We hope you've enjoyed this episode today. I think we made it as comprehensive as we could. And I'm proud of this episode. And look forward to the Katie Couric interview, because it was probably the longest time we've talked, to someone about our story, where we're going, our views. And was really excited about that interview. And of course, Katie Couric's a legend. So it was great to sit down with her. And again, from the bottom of our heart, thank you. Let me tell you, if you want to help grow the MeidasTouch Network, where you can go.
By the way, their podcast is called Next Question with Katie Couric, and that episode releases this Thursday. So make sure you check it out. I think you guys will really enjoy it.
You've got MeidasPlus.com, which is our Substack run by Ron Filipkowski, our editor-in-chief. Shout out to Ron. We've got our Patreon at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We're going to be holding probably next week or maybe the week after, if it's a recap of all that's happened in New York. So if you want to meet us personally, patreon.com/MeidasTouch is the place for that. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Get your Meidas gear. For all of our Canadian supporters, we've got the MeidasTouch Elbows Up Canadian gear, 100% made in Canada, which you could still buy in America. And then there's lots of other gear that we have in merch too. So check that out, store.MeidasTouch.com. Make sure you subscribe on audio, podcast, and YouTube, so you're on all of our platforms. Leave a 5-star review, because, those Rogan fans get very mad when we win Podcast of the Year. So anyway, make sure you subscribe and leave 5-star reviews there. And again, from the bottom of our heart, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Jordy, why don't you take it away?
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.